Good evening. In New York early this morning, the .44 caliber killer tried to kill again.
This summer marks the 40th anniversary of one of the most frightening episodes in the history of New York City.
The city is preoccupied with the killer who in one note signed himself the Son of Sam.
Most of the victims have been young women with shoulder-length dark brown hair who were gunned down as they sat in parked cars or walked the sidewalks.
The killer's sixth victim. He's wounded 7 others.
The serial killer known as Son of Sam is speaking out in his first major television interview in a decade.
People will never understand where I came from. No matter how much I try to explain it, they wouldn't understand what it was to walk in darkness.
Serial killer's about to walk in here and talk with us. I look like him, right?
Hello, hey, God bless you.
Maurice Dubois.
It's an honor to meet you, sir. Glad to meet you.
Thank you for talking with us.
My daughter is dead, but I would die right here and now to see this man punished. To do this to a young girl, he can't be normal. He's not normal.
That was just a break from reality, and thought I was doing something to appease the devil. I'm sorry for it, but I really don't want to talk about it anymore.
Appease the devil?
Well, I was, at this time, I was serving him. I feel that he had taken over my mind and body, and I just surrendered to those very dark forces. I regret that with all my heart.
And not only, is he a convicted killer, but to rise to the level of having sort of a nickname in the media, terrorizing a city like New York.
I understand that it was a demonic thing, and, I just opened myself up to some very dark forces to come in, and I can't, change that. I look at that in disbelief. I can't believe that happened. I look back, none of it makes any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all. I was under strong delusions. That's what happens when you come under those powers. You're under strong delusions. You just don't, you look back and say, what the heck happened?
My daughter was 18 years old, and that's what he took out of my heart, 18 years.
As far as I'm concerned, that was not me. That was not me.
What would you tell 23-year-old David Berkowitz today?
Turn around before it's too late, because destruction is coming,
There was nobody else involved.
Let's just put it this way, they were demons, and that was it.
I've done many prison interviews before, but this is different. He's got his head down most of the time. He's deferential. He's unfailingly polite. He's carrying his Bible. That's his thing. He's a born-again Christian.
The 2030 Agenda, with its 17 interconnected and mutually reinforcing sustainable development goals, provides humanity, all of us, with a universal master plan to transform our world for the better.
2017 Global Citizen Festival on September 23rd in New York Central Park. Now with us, Savannah. First, what does it mean to be a global citizen?
Authorities saying this morning the attack is linked to the terrorist assault on Barcelona earlier on Thursday.
And the impact has been felt all around the world.
It sets out to build peaceful societies and increase global prosperity, while at the same time protecting our natural environment and averting the worst impacts of climate change.
The warning comes as much of Europe swelters in the grips of a heat wave.
Lucifer is living up to its name, intense heat that's fanning forest fires across France and Spain. And scientists warn summers will keep getting hotter.
Following severe flooding over the past 3 days in Nepal.
Shobha Lal Mandal says he's never seen such a flood in the 40 years of his life. is one of the deadliest natural disasters to hit Africa in recent years.
Seasonal but unusually heavy rains lash the port city relentlessly.
A race against the threat of disease. This is new pain for an already troubled country.
Like they were even counting off the things, so they were saying the Civil War, then Ebola, then the flooding last year, and then this crisis this year with the mudslide, and it's just a kind of state of shock, but also disbelief that things keep on happening.
The EU's project of supranational governance has been fueled by postmodernism at an international level, a kind of global political correctness. In the sphere of international politics, the spirit of postmodernism has seized the opportunity presented by the end of the Cold War for new ways of thinking about world order. Ultimately, the only thing that is objectively true is my subjective assessment of what is true for me. This idea at the core of the postmodern worldview, the idea that freedom means the right to disregard truth and decide for myself what is true, is the complete inversion of the traditional idea that freedom must be anchored in real, objective, and lasting truth. And arising out of this inversion of freedom anchored in truth, is an inversion of justice. The justice of identity politics is that society at large not only recognize, but also support, in language, thought, and legislation, each group's self-definition of its tribal truth. We see this now especially in the LGBT rights and gender identity movement, and in the resulting challenges coming from all corners to the religious liberty of Orthodox Christians. And the US, as I've tried to show, is far from immune from this. While our freedom in language, thought, and legislation is being undermined on the one end by postmodern political correctness, on the other end, our national sovereignty is under assault by a fashionable globalism. The breakdown of the West's traditional reverence for truth, objective truth, has everything to do with the waning of self-government. Everywhere around us, in both America and Europe, a poorly understood, trickle-down postmodernism is already eroding our freedom and affecting our well-being. Whether we want to be or not, we who believe in self-government, if we really believe in self-government, are engaged in a battle that goes much deeper than mere political differences. Why? The Judeo-Christian view of an unchanging human nature embedded in tradition, religion, community, and family, the worldview that grounds self-government in the West, no longer commands the general allegiance of our Western society. And the partisans of postmodern political correctness are committed to a radically secularist vision of the virtually unlimited malleability of human nature according to each person's choice. This type of subversive relativism, the suspicion that truth is not really truth, but simply the tool of the politically and economically powerful, has seeped into virtually all areas of life. They both political correctness and identity politics, reject the idea that there is any truth claim that can command greater allegiance than the feelings or opinions of any individual or group, especially if that group is deemed to be disadvantaged. Reality itself is nothing more than what each individual or group feels it to be.
This question of what human rights are demands resolution. And thus it becomes inevitable that human rights themselves will be redetermined, and that by none other than those who hold political power. After all, in a world without the authority of objective truth, only those who hold political power have authority that is enforceable. Thus, with this political redefinition of human rights, the individual's so-called unlimited right to choose becomes the unlimited right of the government to decide what may or may not be chosen. So government, as guarantor of universal human rights, expands inexorably to government as master. And with the global reach of communications, travel, commerce, and ideas, government as master expands geographically also. Just as government power to determine what human rights are is in principle unlimited, so it also becomes impossible to limit the power of government to a certain geographical area or to a certain people. Global supranational governance thus becomes the only rational option, and national sovereignty becomes, in principle, an impermissible limit on the elite's power to decide for everyone what is just and true.